You've got a story?
I have a story to tell. So, in year 11, you know how we had those people come in to teach us about sex ed and contraceptives, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, they start off obviously by like telling you, like they start off by scaring you, you know, so like all the different STDs, you can get STIs, et cetera, et cetera. And they asked us, you know, like they want some involvement from the class. And so they said to us, oh, like, so can any of you guys name any STDs or STIs? I single-handedly named all of them, even the 2 types of herpes. Except for AIDS. Someone else got AIDS, and I can't remember who it was, but someone else got AIDS, which is sad for me. But
yeah. I mean, it's a good thing that you're aware of them, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I can tell you all about gonorrhea and chlamydia, but then, you know, I mean, I don't even know what they are. I just know the name, you know.
Right.
You know, like you go to any school in New Zealand, they teach you this kind of stuff.
Knowledge is power.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. Right. Knowledge of STDs is power.
Right.
So, with that in mind, welcome to Turn Up, guys.
Welcome to Turn Up.
You're listening to AAC Radio Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
Okay, so this week's theme is sexual education for S.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sex ed.
Yeah. It's been such a long time since I heard this word, you know.
Well, sex ed?
Yeah.
Because, we have that like 1 week of it in year 11. And then after that, they don't really talk about it.
And I can't really remember what we did in year 11. The last time I remember was like 7th or 8th grade.
It was quite vague, to be fair.
Right.
And I found that the things that I'd learned in like year 9, 10, 11 at my old school, like were way more in depth than what we learned here.
Right. I wonder why.
Well, I think, to be fair, I think it's because here they're like, oh, probs don't have issues with that, right? So they don't really cover it very much. Meanwhile, in other schools, they're more realistic.
Right.
I think that's why.
I mean, theory can only go so far.
Sure. Even at my old school, they like gave out condoms, like not just one, like a pack.
No, when I was at Stanford for the business camp, the lady who managed the dorm room, she was a Stanford student, and she was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna leave a bag of condoms outside my door. Grab it anytime you want. Yeah. She didn't say need. She said want. Yeah.
Oh,
that openness.
So, since sex ed is quite an open topic now, it's not really too hush-hush. I mean, penis. I mean, you know when you're a kid and, like, you're like, oh, that's gross, it's weird. Right. Like, there are boys in class and stuff, and it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. And now, like, it's quite, you know, it's not really, we don't really care. It's kind of like, what up, like, sex ed. I've never met anyone who's done that. Like, okay. So, there are 2 types of sex ed. They've called them sex education and sexuality education. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, so sex ed is learning about medically accurate information relating to sexual activities, dispelling myths, talking openly about sexual issues such as STDs, consent, and contraception. So that's like the basics. They like to,
This is what we did last year 11.
Yeah. And then there's also sexuality education, which is kind of more brushed off, I feel. I don't think I've ever had a class like this.
Right.
Or maybe like one lesson out of a bunch of classes, but it wasn't really focused on.
Right.
Like understanding the idea of sexuality in terms of LGBTQ community, the lesbian, gay, bi, trans community. And like that you don't have to be straight to be like right. That you can be gay, you can be trans, you can be, et cetera, et cetera. And it's okay.
To an extent, like, the significance of these two are pretty much equal in today's world.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, especially with like more awareness.
Right.
Especially about like the trans community recently with Caitlyn Jenner and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely something that young people need to know.
Right, but somehow the emphasis seems to be on simply sex education.
Yeah, I honestly feel like, that's more the older generation.
Right.
Because the older generation, like, like this trans thing doesn't exist. Or like being gay is a phase, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So they don't bother to teach it because they don't see it as something real.
Right.
But I feel like that will roll out with our generation.
Right.
When we become the working people and
Right.
Turn Up Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
So sex ed wise, there's a lot of debate between whether it is the school's duty to educate the children about sex ed, or whether it's the parents' duty. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I mean, I learned it at school.
Right.
And, you know, personally, I had no problems with it. My parents didn't have any problems with it.
Right.
The only concern that I would have is some parents are overly sensitive about sex issues, and they refuse to teach. You know, they deny the entire thing.
Sure.
You know, as if their child is going to be entirely pure for the rest of their lives.
So you think that by having an open environment where you are able to ask questions, but not necessarily prodded to ask questions, is better?
I think that's better.
Sure. I'd have to agree with you. I feel like it is the school's duty in the sense of, you know, not all parents will do it, and they know that not all parents will do it, but I think, you know, in a perfect world, it would be both. They both need to create that liberal environment, you know, where they are able to ask questions and not feel weird or awkward, or, you know. And like I know, like there are always like people who grow up with like one parent, like a girl who grows up with like just a dad or something, and then like she doesn't know anything about like how periods work or anything, and it frightens her. And then, you know, like if a school wasn't there for her, you know, who does she turn to? So yeah, I think in the sense of providing both like sides, and so that everyone knows what's going on and that everything's normal, etc., or even what's not normal.
And you know, like some people say, because we have the internet, it's not necessary.
Dr. Google.
But the thing is, the information that you gain from the internet, there's no guarantee that it's the right thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Some people get the wrong idea of sex through the internet, and I mean, no, I'm seriously like.
Yeah, I see that.
It's quite a problem, and if it's such a fundamental part of humanity. You should be educated properly. I mean, internet is the birthplace of myths. I mean, I'm pretty sure those myths were created in the internet.
Probably. But yeah, so all these kind of dangerous things that like they need to be dispelled, you know, by education system or by parents or both.
Turn Out Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
So thinking about it geographically, because our scriptwriter takes geo. The disparity between the quality of sexual education between LEDCs and MEDCs. Yeah, let's talk about that.
So, I mean, you know, this isn't an issue that I kind of looked closely into, but is the disparity big?
I think it is, in the sense of, you know, LEDCs do not have the same kind of education systems or even home environments that MEDCs do have. But also MEDCs have that big issue when it comes to what people feel is right in terms of religion.
Kind of like the parenting thing. I mean, if parents are affected by a certain religion, they might say no. Yeah,
and I mean, in that sense, does that, you know, that creates that liberal environment that you're trying to create, like that makes it hard for someone to know. And so MEDCs kind of have a disparity in their own way. But LEDCs, I would say they ignore it. I would say they ignore it, right? Because you know, they've got other things to focus on, like surviving, finding their next meal.
Somewhat ironic, because sex is such an essential. I guess like it's the basis of life, and you know they have to ignore it for other practicalities.
And you know, like they don't develop properly. Like when like you're in a malnourished situation, like you know, girls stop getting their periods, boys start shooting blanks, etc., etc. You know, like it's like they're not in a situation where they can reproduce. You know.
So you know, the U.S. being an MEDC. I think, you know, we have some diagrams here which definitely portray the disparity that you mentioned.
All in one country,
Yes. So here we have states where sex and HIV education, if provided, don't have to be medically accurate.
And just by looking at this diagram, like, you guys can't see it, obviously, but there's approximately 8 states that are not highlighted.
Right.
So out of a total of what, 50?
This is troubling.
Yeah.
This is troubling.
And you know that there's that whole thing about HIV and AIDS and how there's that conspiracy that one does not cause the other.
Right.
And it's like all made up by the pharmaceutical companies,
Right.
et cetera, to like extort money out of you. And blah blah, and like their medication actually gives you one or the other or something.
Right.
And you know, and that's the kind of thing that they do teach here. Like, and it's so widely believed. And it's please.
If they're gonna teach the wrong thing, why teach it in the first place?
Yeah, like that's the thing, right? And it's feeding that whole. People have heard so long the wrong information that they feel like the right information is like just propaganda.
Right.
And it's like, please, just listen, please.
You know, if that's the case, I don't really see the difference between sex education and LEDCs and sex education in these states.
Well,
I mean,
that's the thing,
if
though.
they have a misconception of it.
But that's the danger about it. Having a misconception and having no idea are two different things.
Right.
If you have no idea, I think honestly that's better than having a misconception.
Right, because once you get the idea, you're attached to it. And
a seed of thought.
yeah,
Inception. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's
genuine inspiration and all that. There are also states where sex education, if provided, must include information on abstinence, but not on contraception.
okay. Is that really realistic? And I think that's just sad how they like even something as simple as condoms, they don't teach them about like.
Right.
And people think that like you know there are ways of getting around that, like, you know, like, oh, you don't need condoms, like, oh, like it doesn't matter kind of thing. Is like,
what does God like? Somehow miraculously die.
die baby die. But no, that's not pro-life, you know. So, and that's what they're and that's the thing as well. Like they don't like teaching them about contraception, and then they also don't like abortions.
Right.
So I mean, and I'm not saying that abortions are necessarily like, you know, go-to kind of thing. You know, like there a lot of emotional stress is put on the people who go through them, like mother and father. But the thing is, if they go as far as to like burn down abortion clinics, you know, and it's like, okay, so you're not going to let them get rid of the baby, you're not going to tell them how to not get a baby in the first place,
Right.
and then you're wondering why like people live in like the low wage bracket,
Right.
and it's like, well, that's exactly why you're not giving them a chance at
Right.
life, you know,
Right.
and it's so sad.
And it says here, just, you know, information. Utah prohibits teachers from responding to students' spontaneous questions in ways that conflict with the law's requirements. I don't know their legislature or their laws, but this...
Oh, when it says in ways that conflict with the law's requirements, that right away means like contraception. They don't talk about contraception
Right.
at all.
And also, in Mississippi, localities may include topics such as contraception or STIs, only with permission from the State Department of Education.
Right off the bat, when I have kids, that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna check their school. Like, so, how do you feel about contraception?
Turn Out Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
Now, you know, we're starting to see trends here. There's a diagram on teen pregnancy rates in 2008, and these states that we mentioned before, you know, states where sex and HIV education, if provided, don't have to be medically accurate, or states where sex education, if provided, must include information on abstinence but not contraception. These states have overwhelmingly high teen pregnancy rates.
Can we just talk about the fact that most of them are concentrated on the Bible Belt,
Yes,
right at the bottom,
southern states.
and that's you know.
Yeah.
It's just painful. There's so much they could do to help these people,
Exactly.
to help the country, and they're not. They're choosing not to. Like, oh, that's pain.
You know, I mean, generalization it's a dangerous thought, but relating to sexuality education, you know, we see similar trends.
Exactly. And correlation does not equate to causation, but
Right.
at the same time, like, come on. They're kind of hinting at this.
Right. So, arguments against sex education.
Let's hear him.
Now, this has nothing to do with my worldview or
Sure.
Kappy's worldview
Sure.
or the scriptwriter's worldview. This
Sure.
is just, we want to explore various perspectives.
Sure.
So, children lose their beautiful innocence before their time. Their blissful innocence is ripped from them. Let's not teach them how not to contract STDs because they are cute.
I think that's a bit of an opinionated statement. I think it's not because they are cute, but I think it is to preserve the whole innocence thing.
Right.
The cute is a no.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next 9 is no.
Yeah.
So the argument is essentially that if you are to teach sexual education and if you are to teach about contraceptives and whatnot, then they will use it. As if, in the way as such as like providing them with a condom will make them decide that they want to have sex. And if you don't give them condoms, then they won't even think about the idea.
Right.
And abstinence will be what will happen. That's the idea behind it.
Which is...
Honestly, a little bit narrow-minded. And by a little bit, I mean a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's kind of... If a kid is not going to have sex, giving them a condom will not make them think, hey, you know what, let's have sex.
Right,
Like,
I mean, condoms... Well, first of all, they don't symbolize sex itself. And secondly, they're not the only item that can arouse these kind of feelings. I mean,
yeah.
come on, we have the internet. Like, what? I mean, are you expecting children to stay innocent for their entire lives?
And that's the thing as well. I think that ties in with the whole the Bible Belt thing and
right.
religion in that sense, because masturbation is not allowed in the same way that sex is not allowed. So they think, like, if you can't see them masturbating, then they're probably not, right? Like,
Right.
Meanwhile, and if you don't provide them with the tools that they need to have safe sex, they will not have sex.
Right. Which is
probably a bit wrong.
Yeah.
By probably, I mean it is.
Yeah. And is prolonged innocence always that good?
I honestly feel though, like,
I think at a certain point you need to grow up, you need to get, you need to gain maturity in order to see things properly.
And at a certain point being puberty.
Yeah.
Learn what a penis is and how it can
Right.
give you an STD.
Right. And you don't have to be like all shy about these things. Like, my sex education class in middle school, for the first day, we had to shout out the word penis and like all
you
the
lose them with the
other
word?
genitals and
Other genitals?
sexually affiliated words.
When you say other genitals, it's like as if there's like multiple.
Well, no.
Like, how many?
No, female and male. Yeah,
Sure.
And then like we were to say variations of these.
Oh, right, slang terms.
In which I believe my friend Jason shouted out joystick. Yes.
Worth it.
And innocence and experience.
Whoa.
William Blake.
Nice. The scary thing is though, he talks a lot about kids, so that's
right.
That's not.
Turn Out Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
So to sum up the kinds of sexual education that kids do receive, they show videos about abstinence and how that's what's right and that's the only way that's right, etc., etc. And I think some places they, as we said earlier, they don't show medically accurate representations of STDs, etc., etc. Oh, and they have this thing where they bring in guest speakers about abstinence. Have you ever? I watched actually a YouTube video about one of these people once, and she went in and talking about how like abstinence is the only way and blah blah blah, and it was actually kind of scary, like honestly watching it, because it was like she was quite, I want to say hypnotic in that sense, like, because watching her, like, obviously I don't think the same way, obviously I think differently, but the way, like, what she was saying and the way she was putting it out there was quite like, I found myself agreeing to it, kind of thing. And then after watching it, and I was thinking about it, I was like, wait, no, but
right.
Whilst I was watching it, I felt myself nodding, and I like, oh yeah,
if you didn't have any prior knowledge,
it would be so
exactly.
believable, like, and that's the thing, like, I have prior knowledge, and it was believable for me at the time, it is propaganda, like, they are hypnotizing these children into, like, wrong information, and yeah, when they don't know any better, like.
And when someone says this is the only way, you know something's wrong.
Girl, let me find another one.
The only way. I mean,
yeah,
that level of absolute, ultimate, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can be applied to many other things. And then, of course, there are the situations where they do talk about sex ed from, both sides. They say you can choose to be abstinent, and that's fine, or you can choose to have sex, but make sure you are safe. Consent, STDs, condoms, etc., etc. And some places, I know that in New Zealand, they are allowed to teach you about condoms and etc., but they aren't allowed to show you how to put them on until you're 11, where you're 15, 16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which kind of
that makes sense.
Isn't it?
Okay.
But yeah, they're allowed to show you they had a model, they have a model. It's not like a penis model, it's just like a stick.
Right.
But they have a model and they have a condom on it, but they can't show you how to put it on.
Right.
Yeah. I think morally I understand where they're coming from, but then at the same time.
The thing is, if they see the model, wouldn't they know how to put it on?
Apparently there's all this stuff you need to do, it's not just put it on, bro.
Oh, right. Right. Of course, I would have no idea.
Sure.
Yeah. Just for the record, those condoms at Stanford, it remained there.
Girl, please.
Yeah.
You count
remained
them?
there.
You count them?
Oh, no.
Yes,
I
girl.
did. You
No, I didn't count
Girl?
them. Oh, no, of course, pure as lamb, we just
You
thought
are
of them
lamb.
as balloons.
And then that student was the tiger. And then there's also, they have the two different types of actually teaching sex ed. The really comprehensive one where they tell you everything, boom, and they talk about LGBTQ community and et cetera,
Right.
science and life and
Yep.
yeah.
Trying Out Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
So, moving on to sexuality education.
Hey girl, hey. So a lot of famous people have come out
Right.
being gay or bi or lesbian
Right.
or trans, and I found that as time goes on, the more more people who come out with those kind of things are they're accepted, celebrated even.
Which personally, I think it's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
the ability to be yourself and to be proud of it. I think,
Exactly. And everyone deserves the right to,
right.
be who they are.
Right.
I mean, unless you're a psycho murderer, then you don't deserve to be who you are, bro. I mean, because being part of the LGBTQ community, and straight people can be a part of that community too, be a supporter and whatnot, but being part of that community is all about, they're not hurting anyone, they're choosing to live their lives, in a slightly different way.
Right.
And
I mean, who's to say that they're different?
exactly,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not doing anything wrong,
Right.
Like,
right.
and it wasn't considered that way years ago, but now we know better kind of
Right.
thing. So
I think overall, this trend of acceptance, it's
Yeah,
a good
definitely.
thing.
yeah,
But more should be done. Well, at
Yeah.
least from my perspective, I see it
yeah.
as
And recently, the U.S. passed their law.
Yeah, and some legal affiliates, they basically argued that they don't want to allow marriages to these gays, lesbians, sexual minorities because it contradicts their personal beliefs.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was their argument, saying the law should never contradict their. I mean, if their personal belief is different from the law, they shouldn't have to enforce the law.
And a lot of federal laws, state laws, sorry. A lot of the laws being made in the states by the state senators are allowing that kind of behavior.
Right.
Which I feel is the most anti-progressive thing that they can
Right.
do.
And
Foster that behavior.
speaking of which, I find it ironic because we previously said Utah prohibits teachers from responding to students' spontaneous questions in ways that conflict with the laws. So here they're saying the law should trump personal beliefs, and then on other issues they're saying, well,
But my personal beliefs, though.
right.
Yeah.
No hate, Utah. No hate.
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City, yeah.
And it was Kentucky, that lady. Well, she got locked up. She's in jail currently.
Kentucky.
Yeah, that lady, she who refused to give the marriage license out. Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
And like apparently she's like told all of her workers who work there as well, like you can't do that, like you know, like kind of like putting it on grounds for termination kind of thing.
Right.
Like if you do that, I will fire you kind of thing. But apparently since she's been in jail, like they've actually started doing it again. They started allowing marriage licenses, which is really great.
Whoever that lady is, I hope you have a time of reflection,
Papa
enlightening,
Eugene speaks out
in your little cell.
Turn Out Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
So I guess one of the most prominent or well-known lesbian is Ellen from the Ellen Show.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Right. She's married to Portia. Am I correct?
Yes.
Portia. She's an author, I believe.
Oh, is she?
I believe she's an author. Portia de Rossi.
Huh.
Yeah.
So Ellen's a comedian,
Right.
television host, actress, writer, and producer. And she's been hosting The Ellen Show since 2003.
During the 4th season of Ellen in 1997, she came out as a lesbian in an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
I feel like she essentially started that wave, you know? Like,
Right.
I mean, obviously she didn't start it, but,
Right.
you know, I feel like she was a massive contributor to
It was
that.
a brave move.
Exactly,
Yeah.
especially for that time, you know?
Right.
Like, that was like, what, 18 years ago?
Yeah.
And
It was when we were born.
yeah. And it was, you know, times were way less progressive back then
Right.
in that sense. And because I feel like this whole progression thing of normalizing sexuality and whatnot is a relatively recent thing, like last 10 years, you know.
Right.
And like to do it, you know, before a time when this was really like in such force is quite brave of her.
So, one of the quotes that Ellen said was, "I was raised around heterosexuals, as all heterosexuals are. That's where us gay people come from. You heterosexuals."
That's quite powerful in
Right.
a sense.
And a lot of the arguments made by anti-LGBT people is that this kind of sexual preference, it's hereditary. It goes down. It's a generational thing.
Which is kind of painful.
Um,
First of all, let's talk about the hereditary part.
Oh my god, public education failed so badly.
But, okay, so the hereditary part. Even if it was hereditary, two gay people cannot have a child. Like, they cannot conceive their own, like,
Exactly.
child, you know? Like, so hereditary doesn't really matter.
Right.
Like, oh no, they've got the gay gene. It doesn't matter, they can't pass it on. They physically cannot.
Right. And I mean, you know, if, for example, the gay or lesbian parents forced their child to have such a sexual preference, that would be a problem. But,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I think, you know, gays, lesbians, bis, they would more encourage their children to
Be who they are.
be who they are and try to see the world from a much more broader perspective.
Exactly, because they've experienced not being accepted.
Right.
And they don't want their kids to ever feel like that.
You
And I
know-
think that's quite humbling, you know.
Right. And, yeah, they should learn biology.
Bio life. And then also the idea that being around like gay parents will make the kid gay, like it will make them act gay. Once again, that's where this quote comes in. Like,
Yeah.
she grew up around heterosexuals, and
Yeah.
like as most gay kids do, you know, around heterosexuals. Like,
Right.
your actions made them gay, dude. Like, if that's how you think, then it's all you. Like,
Right. I try to think about the personal psychology behind people who hate. You know, this doesn't have to be about LGBT.
Yeah.
You know, other issues, people who hate. And it's quite sad if you think about it. To form your worldview around an emotion that's only going to do harm to yourself. And I mean, how dissatisfied with their lives did they have to be in order to kind of release that pain on someone else? It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
And I talk about the people who are usually like most aggressively homophobic,
Right.
or you know, etc., are usually the people themselves who aren't really that certain about their
Right.
sexuality,
Right.
and that's why they feel like the need to you know,
Cover it up. in a
yeah,
sense.
by acting macho or.
It's kind of like bullying.
It is bullying.
Right, it is,
It's
you know-
definitely abuse, and especially you know, like physical abuse is you know damaging, obviously, but the emotional abuse
Right.
and then, you know how the people they make the LGBTQ community feel.
Right.
and there's a lot of rates of especially LGBTQ kids suicide and self-harm, etc., because they don't feel like they're accepted, which is just tragic.
Right. And looking at Ellen, I think I'm kind of as a heterosexual who supports LGBT, I don't think we should set barriers on who we see as good or bad. And the fact that they have these kind of role models, I think it's a very good thing. Because,
Exactly.
If you look at racism, for example, African Americans in America, throughout the 20th century, a lot of literature or lyrics like Kendrick or J. Cole, what they talk about is the fact that they didn't have anyone to look up to.
Sure.
Who represented their cohort of people. But, I think on a relatively earlier stage, we're seeing a lot of people, prominent figures who bravely come out, and then they're successful.
Exactly. And especially with the rise and fame of YouTubers and etc., like when recently Joey Graceffa, he recently came out.
Oh,
and then after him,
know.
you don't know him?
No.
Do you know Shane Dawson?
No.
And then after him, Shane Dawson came out as bi.
Okay.
And so then, they have like that extra support of like,
Right.
and people do leave comments for them like, you inspired me to
Right.
come out, now I feel a lot more free, etc., it's quite heartwarming.
Right. Once it becomes a movement, it's quite a beautiful thing.
Fair Enough Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
And now it's time for our extra whatnots of the day. SAT word of the day.
I think of the word sage, which
The
probably
Gemini?
relates because it's kind of, it's about like wisdom and stuff. So sagacious or sagacious?
I'm gonna
Sagacious.
diggity dictionary here.
Sagacious. Sagacious.
Do you think that's why she chose that word?
Sagacious.
Sagacious.
Sagacious. Acutely insightful and wise. Oh, I didn't know Bridget was trying to describe me. But,
Oh, the sagacious Eugene had a truer insight into this matter than most of our modern
You
educationists.
see, at the age of 3, I contemplated on death.
Oh my god.
The revolution of humanity.
What's the word for that?
Morbid.
I was thinking existentialism.
Ominous.
Oh, sure.
Great things are ahead of this child, was what my father said.
You're tragic, and I hope you know it. Our TV series of the day, Supernatural. Have you watched it?
No.
Eugene.
No.
Eugene.
Okay, I do have to apologize because I come from a family who's ardently supporting this TV series Supernatural. My cousins, my mom,
Are you
my dad.
kidding me?
And I was
never-
like,
Girl.
because I was busy thinking about death and all that.
Sure. Well, I mean, to be fair though, you like Suits and stuff. I don't think you'd like Supernatural.
Oh, really?
I don't feel like you're the kind of fantasy man,
I'm the kind of
You're like straight up, you like straight up things,
Yeah.
So I feel like
I
you
did
watching
like
it, you
Harry
wouldn't like
Potter.
it.
Okay.
You didn't like Harry Potter?
I did like Harry
You did?
Potter. Yeah.
Most people like
it's
Harry
just
Potter.
that, yeah, I was too busy.
It's good, man, but it's
Yeah.
really only the first 2 seasons are good, and then after that, it kind of loses purpose.
Okay.
But Sam and Dean though.
It's about the brothers, right? Yeah.
Dean.
Oh, I
Babe.
know something. Yeah.
Oh, wow, you know something.
Song of the day, S&M by Rihanna.
I feel like this is really, really linked, not only by the title of the song, but S&M in regards to sex ed.
Yeah.
They never taught us that in school.
No.
Sad. Well, I think it's time to go because we've been sitting here for like, oh my gosh, 50 minutes. This is a 50-minute recording.
Yes.
It won't be 50 minutes by the time you guys hear it, hopefully. but it's 50 minutes right now. So we gotta go. Thank you for listening. Ha ha ha. Thank you, Michelle, CEO, Big Boss Lady. Thank you, script writers, Bridget, Helena, the other one, Ashlyn.
Wilson Zanko.
Nice. I need to put Ashlyn first one.
Yeah.
It's always co last,
Yeah. Yeah, but it has that kind of like company kind of name stuff.
Company and co. Oh my gosh.
Oh, and last week's video
Sure.
got unusually a lot of likes.
What, like 7?
Yeah. No, I was really glad.
Yeah, and people were actually like, I was talking to people and they actually listened.
Right.
Like, and I literally like wrote on it like, oh, like, comment, subscribe, jokes, like you guys aren't gonna do that kind of
Right.
thing, and then they actually did.
And Sunshine even commented on it.
Yeah, about like something that you said.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, like that, and that was like a good 3/4 of the way through.
Right,
like,
right.
She listened that whole way.
Right.
Sunshine, shot. And if you hear this, hey babe. Anyway,
Thank you, Eugene and Kappy.
yeah,
Thank
best
you.
B. Oh,
Thank you.
two contrasting personalities. Thank you and best B. All right. With all that in mind and with you in mind, because we think about you all the time, baby, we just want to be there for you. Good day, good night, good evening, tomorrow, and don't forget to
Turn up.
You're listening to AAC Radio Podcast with Eugene and Kappy.
We giggity gonna Google it?
Quallen Kern.
I'm probably right, yeah.
Tomato.
Moonhead.
Moonin.
Scarlett Johansson.
That's
Oh!
American. That's English. That's
You
American.
are American.
Well, you know.
She's not English, she's American.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but...
like.
Eugene likes
I
this
can
song.
only think of Emma Watson right now. Like,